Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the talk. I have the lovely professional dominatrix, Madam Raven Rae, who might possibly be a little bit dangerous. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Now, you've been a professional dominatrix for a very long time. How did you initially get involved in this section and subsection of the adult entertainment industry?
Well, that's a very loaded question. Being a dominant female in today's society has always kind of put you off into an odd group. So really, I started off being a stripper when I was 18, and I was a really bad stripper. I was terrible. I talked to people. I enjoyed dancing, and I didn't let people touch me. So I made a really bad stripper. And one time my friend had invited me to do what in the Northwest was called a show. In California, we call it a session. And it was to cause as much pain with clothespins as possible. So, needless to say, I kind of fell in love with that. And let's see, I didn't become a professional dominatrix though until the last 5 years or so. Yeah, it's not really until the last 5 or 6 years that I actually started doing it professionally.
So, now I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. You're 18 years old. Why did you go into stripping and how did you initially get involved in stripping? Because a lot of girls and women start there and then they make their subway into other subsections of the
Absolutely.
adult world.
I was a totally free spirit. Like I just did what I wanted when I wanted. My mom was a nudist. She was a hippie. And so to me, nudity was kind of normal. We went to nudie beaches. We went and did things at like the Oregon Country Fair, and I was like topless the whole time, body paint, just, you know, it's a much different life in society. Um, but my dad was a pastor, and so that was quite an interesting balance, let's say. But I got a really interesting perspective on humanity and human sexuality that a lot of kids probably don't understand or get ever. So, when my parents were having a tough time financially, I decided to work full time. I dropped out of school, got my GED, went straight to college. Decided to stop my job at Jiffy Lube and because I was a car mechanic and started going and dancing at strip clubs. Because as soon as I turned 18, I was like, this is exciting. I can be naked and get paid for it. Shit, yeah. So it was, I don't know, it seemed like the right path. And then I started realizing deeper into the human psyche and human sexuality. And I started realizing what things were. And I started growing up in this society, yet still going to school and still continuing my education. So it was always really interesting to see the progression of people that looked at those career paths as degrading or demeaning. And to me, I looked at it as empowering. For me, it was empowering and it got me through school. And there's nothing bad to be said because I make a shit ton more money than most people that, go to school and still have college debt. So, yeah, getting into dancing was kind of fun. And I had a huge background in dancing my whole life, actually. I went to college for dancing. So it was just super fun for me. And I got to make money. And, I helped my parents out a lot by not having to have them support me at all. I moved out. And, I just had a lot of fun with life. I lived life to the fullest. I had an apartment when I was 17 with, I think I had 4 girlfriends and 6 boyfriends. And they all knew about each other and they all paid my way for everything. So life was good. And I just kind of continued that.
And now I kind of want to talk a little bit about stripping before we get into some of the more fetish stuff that you have done. And I want to kind of talk about how profitable stripping is and how that entire culture.
It's not.
We're getting
Sorry.
there. We're getting there. I've spoken to many strippers. So let's
Okay,
break that
okay.
myth right now.
Yeah, fuck that. It's like worse than a low paying minimum wage job where you actually do work. It's not okay. The clubs take your money. They make you pay out everybody. I remember taking home maybe 30% of what I fucking made. It was ridiculous. It was stupid. I ended up doing the math and I was like, this is sad. I ended up getting into a class action lawsuit against Discriminant Rhino at one point. So it's totally ran ass backwards. I can't wait to own my own club that's female owned, female ran, female operated. The bouncers are fucking female. The door people are female. Everybody's fucking female. And I will own that club one day. So it gave me goals, but it was definitely an eye opener to how not only the industry runs society, but society lets the industry control them in such a primitive way that they really don't understand. And it opened my mind up to a whole psyche of sexuality that people are not even aware that's going on.
And now you're making no money as a stripper. I think that that's a safe assumption,
Yeah,
correct?
none. None. You make none. I remember walking out of the strip club at making like $60, $80 for 12 hours of sitting around doing nothing because, some days you can't guarantee that there's going to be any clients. You have to build a client base. Like the only time I made money is I'd have to walk in there with $100. I gave it to the door guy, I gave it to the floor guy, I gave it to the manager, and I gave it to the floater. And I said, you send me the money, people, and I'll send you more. And
So
so as soon
now,
as somebody with money walked in, they would look at me and I would go make my money. But
so
it's
now,
very, very political.
so now you're making no money stripping. How did you get into your first fetish, and how did you really start going down that pathway to where we're going to get to where you are today?
Well, as a stripper, you come across a lot of different personalities, a lot of different paths and walks of life. So I would have guys that would just want to rub my feet, would pay me just to rub my feet. I had guys that would pay me to squat them. There was this one guy that was 175 pounds, would get on my shoulder. I would be in heels and would give me $50 every time that I squat him. And I sure as hell squatted him like 45 times. I realized that's a part of sexuality and a fetish. You learn about people in such a, like I said, a primitive way. And you realize that there's more to it, which I was also like, wait a minute, let's work smarter, not harder. And instead of working 12 hours a day at a strip club, I would find out what people's fetishes were. I would ask them. I would talk to them. And then I would make money and tell them, well, you'd have to talk to me in a dance. So we would go back for a dance and we would just talk. And I would basically talk to them and figure out why were they there? I had to know. I just had to know. And the more you got them talking about themselves, the more money I made.
So now you know all these people's fetishes. You got to know them in a
Yeah.
dance. When did you move out of the entire strip club scene and the dancing scene and either get into a dungeon or start really going down exclusively the fetish lane?
Well, actually, I did a tickle fetish clip really, really, really far, far back in the day. And some of my, you know, hardcore fans know about this clip with Goddess Footboy. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't with, no, I did do one with Goddess Footboy, and I did a tickle one with the old school tickle Batman guy that everybody knows, where he goes and tickles you on a cross or something and cellophane. I don't know. I don't remember. But I did that clip for some money at the time when money was really sparse, and I found the gig off Craigslist. And nothing really came of it. I didn't really do anything with it. But I was totally over dancing. I just couldn't do it anymore. And yeah, I made good money working my vanilla life because I managed script writers and I had a very extensive vanilla life. But, it just wasn't very satisfying. So at one point, I just kind of said, I'm tired of trying to make everybody else money. I want to make it for myself. You just get to that point, I think. I think it just gets to that point where you're like, I'm done working hard and only taking this percentage home. I want to do it for myself.
So now, how did you? So you said you wanted to do it for yourself. Where did you start? Did you start making clips for a site? Did you start making your own clips? Did you do a little bit of both? How did you really start to kind of get into this clips that you do and really being a professional dominatrix?
Well, I had this vanilla job and I was making really good money for most people. And I just got really tired of the monotony. I got tired of the mundane. I got tired of working for somebody else. And I said, let's go back to those tickle people. Let's go hit up that one dude that I did that one foot fetish clip for. Let's see what they're doing. Let's go see if I can make a couple $100 in an hour. So I hit them up. Some people were out of business. Some had gotten out and had contacts. So I did a little digging, and I finally got in touch with somebody that's named Goddess Flipboy, who's in the industry, and finally got in touch with each other. And this was probably, God, when I first started looking around, it was probably like 8 months later. And he randomly hit me up. And I was like, really? And since that moment, it's literally been the path of least resistance. I have been swimming upstream my entire life until that moment. And he called and we talked and we started filming, and I just realized that not only was it profitable, it was fun. I was learning about people, which I like to do. I learned that I'm a sapiosexual. I learned about myself. I learned how to help people. It was fabulous. So I just kind of kept going with it and started filming with people that he recommended and started filming stuff for my own site. And he guided me and he showed me the way. I mean, he was really the pioneer for me and a lot of other people. He really started this whole foot fetish industry that started me. Now, granted, the foot fetish was great for being profitable and everything, but I have a very sadistic side that people started wanting to see more and more of. I started getting requests. People wanted to see me smother. They wanted to see me do this. They wanted giantess. They wanted that. And all of a sudden, the industry kind of guided me on what they wanted to see, on what I was good at naturally. It's what I like to do. So it's what it looks good on camera. And I just kept filming and filming and filming and really haven't stopped.
So we just mentioned a bunch of fetishes. We mentioned foot fetish, giantess. You have a sadistic side. Where do you feel that all this came from, considering that you were kind of learning on the job, for lack of a better word, and that this all really came out when
Mm-hmm.
you got hooked up with this guy? So how did you really just start discovering all these
Well,
fetish?
in my personal life, I had an ex-husband, and this ex-husband was very subby. Um, we had very switch roles. I would go out and work and bring home money, and he would take care of the house. And it got to the point where he wasn't taking care of the house. He was being an alcoholic, and he was trying to top me sexually, which I have always done to him, which means I have pegged him. I have been the one that I've been the sexual person on top. So when things started changing, I didn't really like it. And I basically said, this is what it is. And if you don't acknowledge this, I'm gone. So it got to a point where he couldn't acknowledge his own fetishes, his own desires, his own wants, his own needs, and denied them and denied them. And it made him a very angry, spiteful person that made him drink. And I noticed this is a very, primitive pattern amongst people. And I started noticing it was a problem amongst a lot of people that can't be honest with themselves sexually. They can't be honest with themselves within their own relationship. So that's when I went back to school and started getting my sexual psychology degree, because it was just so interesting to me how somebody could be in such denial of themselves. So that started happening that was in my personal life. And I have made the bad stripper because I topped. I was a dominant woman. I've always been in charge. I've always been in control. It's just how it's been. And it's really hard to find your way, like I said earlier, doing that, being that person. But this industry allowed for that to flourish. And doing that allowed me to meet people and learn things and experience and experiment safely, consensually, sanely. And it was fun. It was so fun that I'm not going anywhere. It's home.
And now, being a dominant woman, how does that affect you going into relationships? And how does that affect, in many ways, you currently in a relationship? Without going into any details with any people, but are you a person who is 50-50, or do you always have to be in charge? And how do you separate, I guess, your persona that you go with clips into your personal life? And if you want to pass, be my guest.
No, actually, it's interesting you asked this. My partner of 6.5 years and I are creating a reality show that recently has been picked up and just started getting funding for it. So it kind of explains all this. It kind of goes into depth about why and how relationships work and how, where normality lies between, your wants, your desires, and your real life job. Why have the anonymity? Why do we hide things? It's gonna be quite interesting, but it really starts on like I said earlier, a very primitive level on what we're trying to be honest with. And in relationships, basically, it makes it really difficult. My relationships have always been super difficult because I don't allow to be disrespected in any way, shape, or form. I just don't. And, we as a society has this common saying that boys will be boys, and all boys apparently are allowed to be assholes. Like, that's just a thing. So I wasn't raised that way. And there's quite a few people that are, unfortunately, that boys will be boys and they get away with doing whatever they want to whoever they want because assholes will just be assholes. That just doesn't give anybody an excuse to be an asshole, but it does. And when I put my foot down a lot of the time about how I feel about something, when somebody says, "Oh, she's just being a little bitch," yeah, see, I don't take that very well because I don't want women to be put on that level, whatever that dude just did. And it's hard to explain my point of view over and over and over again without being called like, oh, this extreme feminist. Well, I'm not necessarily a feminist. I just don't, agree with demeaning women in every single sentence. That's my bad, I guess. But it's very hard to communicate, especially the younger kids, man. They're just fucked.
Yeah, I want to talk about that for 1 second. I mean, obviously, I feel, and I don't know how you feel, and I think it kind of plays into what you're speaking about, is that lines have become a lot more complicated in the last 10 years. I don't know if you've
My
seen
God.
that. So, how do you feel that affects your industry when lines become more blurred?
Well, I mean, all lines on all spectrums have been blurred, which I don't necessarily mind because I think we should be on a one-minded spectrum. I just think that, having a general understanding about the universe around you is a little bit more important than understanding why someone chooses the fucking gender that they want. I just have a preference in what I educate myself with. But I mean, this generation with social media, it's like 8 hours of screen time where your brain is just turning to mush as you grow. There's no brain development. There's no cognitive development early. There's no understanding of real world scenario situations when all you have to do is mimic these gorgeous Instagram photos that are perfectly posed and amazingly well lit. And the filters are the exact same and they have 125,000 followers. What? These kids idolize these, non-existent characters. These kids idolize and they try to mimic. And a lot of them are from split households where there's not one, either mother figure or father figure. So their ideas of, what a man or a woman should be comes from these selfies, of perfection that nobody can attain. And media's definition of beauty completely fucks with them. So these kids are really growing up not knowing which end is up or reality or whatever. And then on top of that, we're adding 3D and virtual reality and VR 3. I mean, it's dope. I film in it. I do giantess stuff in VR 360, but it's creating a barrier between reality for these kids. They just don't understand, and they're just not emotionally evolving. So, like, the drama is real. I have a lot of family and I have a lot of kids and nephews and nieces and shit, and oh my God, like, who cares who fucked who in 5th grade? Stop it. Just stop it.
Do you feel where we're going is a good thing for the industry, or is it a bad thing that there isn't this reality anymore? Or at least that's the way I perceive it, is that reality is becoming the gateway between what's real and what's not. It is almost becoming non-existent. Do you feel that's a good thing
Right.
for the industry or no?
It's a very loaded question, actually, because there's very mixed spectrums, really, because you have the side that's like, yay, more fake, I have more work, which is great financially. It's it's multi-billion-dollar industry, so of course that's always going to be great. But on the other hand, you have media putting unrealistic expectations of the female body form. Now that we can, have computer manipulation on top of already being augmented, it creates this literally unrealistic expectation of the female form, which to me, I'm hippie by roots. So unless it's organic, like, get it the fuck away from me. But that creates other problems. That creates health problems, which creates, we have insurance problems, which create societal problems, which create, political problems. There's lots of things that trickle down from the basis of our sexuality, and porn is part of that. Porn is a big part of our world. I got in this industry really to change porn. I got really tired of the misogynistic points of view. I got really tired of, 50, 60-year-old women losing their men to hours and hours and hours of porn and being neglected their whole elder adulthood. Like, why? It's not even necessary. And then the guys go cheat on him and go buy prostitutes. These older women became kind of my inspiration to do this, to do what I do, to help kind of morph the industry into something different. Because the way that it's going right now, well, one, we're all losing money because everything's digital. So the profits have been allocated crazy. Everybody's their own producer, including me. We all do our own shit. So if we all do our own shit, nobody makes it. I would love to unite all these independent producers and create kind of like the Paramount of fetish, where it's a one-stop shop, like a Walmart pretty much, but basically everybody makes more money because there's one place to go for it all. But the way the internet works makes it really difficult because there's a new site popping up every 2 seconds. And then you add, like we were talking about, the VR and the distancing between reality. It's an interesting transformation, but it's really a personal choice to not educate yourself, to know better than to, not spend 4 hours or 6 hours or more on screen time. To understand that 6 hours of porn or more create bad behavior. Under 6 hours or more a week, you can manage that. But it's education that takes that, and it takes personal wanting to learn more to do something about it and be more proactive, that really helps.
And now I kind of want to go a little bit into some more fun stuff with you. I think we asked enough loaded questions for one interview. So I kind of want to talk about some of your fetishes that you've done. I mean, you've done a lot, and I'm very
A lot.
curious, what's your favorite fetish to do and why?
I love giantess. I fucking love it.
You gotta tell why.
Giantess is great because everybody compensates, right? So for every yin, there's a yang. This is why there's lots of lawyers and attorneys and doctors and lawyers and whatever, and doctors and, people of the court that come to me that want to be, because it's the yin and yang of the brain. So for me, I'm short as fuck. I'm only 5'3", but I made it as a model for a long time. Angles are great, my friend. And for me, it's like I feel as a small person, there's just this psychology of people that are bigger than you, that they can overpower you because you're small. They can just pick you up and move you and toss you aside. You're nothing. You're small. It kind of fucking sucks, and it's not really fair. So doing Giantess for me is that yin and yang. I get to be the giant woman, and I get to step on these dudes, and I get to be in control, and I get to be able to tell them what they can and cannot do, and I can flick them and have them fly across the room if I want. I can destroy cities just because I'm on my period and pissed off. It's great. It's a great role play. It's a great mind escape, and it's my favorite all-time fetish. People are like, you don't really believe it. You're just an actress. And I'm like, that's cool. I want to eat you now.
And something that complements Giantess is crushing. And we got to talk
Yes.
about it because I'm a big free speech guy. Justice Scalia, who's no longer with us, he's not a fan of crushing, but he finds that it should be allowed because of freedom of speech. So I'm very curious how you feel about crushing, along with...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, bottom line is, the guys that come to me that want to be crushed, they're 6'3", okay? Period. Like, period, point, end. They're big guys that have never felt what it's like to be small. Like I said, it's the yin and the yang of the brain. So to not allow it is to not let sexuality expand and explore and flourish and get that release that, you need to get. And hell yeah, I believe in crushing. But I don't believe in doing it to animals. That is where I don't believe, because bottom line is animals haven't done shit to me, so why would I want to hurt them?
And now I'm very curious because I think you just mentioned that when guys come to you. So how do you practice safe crushing and anything with in person that you do? How do you make sure that it's safe?
Well, I have won recently Foot Night International's top trampler of 2007, which is kind of a way to crush in real life, feel crushed underneath, a powerful woman's feet. To crush in real life, you really have to ask a professional that's done it several times, that understands where to place feet, where not to place feet, where the aorta is in the neck, and how to be able to step on a neck if so requested to. There's a lot of different parts of crushing and trampling that go coincidingly. And along with any of this, if you haven't asked somebody that's been doing it for years, you probably shouldn't fucking do it. And don't take the client's advice. Don't take what they say for her. They don't shit. They just want to get what they want.
So have you ever not done something and said to a client, no, I don't feel comfortable because I'm not experienced?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever I haven't done before, I will absolutely say, because it's about having fun. It's about exploring. See, I personally also have a voyeurism fetish. I love to watch. I love to watch people get off on their fetishes. To me, it's primal. It's great. I love it. And really, if I haven't experienced it, I can't give them that level of fun that they're wanting and desiring either. And that would look bad on me and this brand that I've been building, right? So to have somebody go out and say, well, she did this, but she sucked ass at it, is not going to be very good for people wanting to get sessions. So I vet them through email a lot. There's a lot of vetting that goes through email. There's a whole protocol and process to get email, and have a whole list of things to answer to make sure that I'm a good fit for you and you're a good fit for me.
And so your vetting process, how does that all work? Just in case anybody is listening to this and wants to contact you, how do you vet people and make sure that they're appropriate for what they want and for what you want, and safety?
First you have to go to my website. You have to go to my website, sexy with an I, Raven Rae, RAE.com, and you have to go to booking sessions and look at what I need. What are your do's? What do you want? What are you wanting? What is okay to do? What are your don'ts? And don't tell me that anything's okay, because I will leave you naked in a subway with honey all over you and a sign that says, rape me, just for pure fun and giggles while I take pictures. Now, I'm sure that's not okay. So let's make that the don't. let's be clear all around on what is okay and what is not okay. I need, a couple days that you would like to book your session. I do have a real life. I know it's crazy that I have a real life, but I need a couple days that you request. I need a couple times that you request, morning, afternoon, evening. And let's make it so that we're prepared and ready to have a good time. And plus, there's a $50 booking. You have to place a booking. In order for me to put your name on my calendar, on my book, and block that time out, I need you to give me a $50 booking to say, I'm going to arrange my entire day schedule around being here at this time, having to do this for this long. And that also guarantees that your session is booked. And if somebody else comes along and says, I have more money, I can pay you more for a better session, I won't take that session because you've already placed your booking fee and that place set. So it's for both of our pieces. That's really important. And it really lets a mistress know, or a goddess know, how serious their client is. If you can't pay for the reservation of time, then it's really not worth anyone's time, because we've sat around waiting for people all day long but never show. So it's very important for protocol. And there's a couple other things, medical questions. Are you on, blood thinner? Are you on heart medication? Or do you have any injuries, previous injuries, especially with bondage? That's really, really, really important. It's also important to know what to look for when you show up. What, if you're going to do a ball busting session, what does testicular tear look like? What does something that's not right look like, so that you know what's in ahead of time? Because you don't want to get into a situation where somebody has something pre-existing, comes to you, like something's ruptured internally already, and you need to know how to be able to spot something so that you're not even blamed for it later. There's a lot of medical things and questions that go into it as well. And if somebody can't answer these basic questions, I give them a 3-flag warning. Like, if you're an asshole, if you try top from the bottom, if you give me short answers and are not giving me the answers that I've asked, then I probably am not going to take your session. You're probably going to be really difficult, and it's not going to be any fun for either of us. So I give people a 3-strike rule.
And also, I'm very curious, when you're booking a session or you're doing something in person, how do you ensure your safety?
Well, I have a very, very, very expensive background in karate, martial arts, weapons training, and
Don't need all the
I'm
detail.
very and kickboxing and former boxing. I've been a fighter my whole life. I was an assistant instructor in Kempo karate by the time I was 13, and arranging stage fights for local shows and fairs and stuff like that. And I was on the weapons. I did weapons training, so I was really good with a Sprima stick.
I think we get it. Just don't fuck with you. I think
Yeah.
it's clear.
Yes.
I think it's
But
clear.
my favorite was knives, throwing knives. I love knives.
I think the point is pretty clear at this point. Just don't fuck with you. It's
Yeah.
clear as
It's,
day.
and it's kind of fun because I actually stopped before I got my black belt, because I knew that once I got my black belt, I had to register myself as a deadly weapon. And being small, I get picked on a lot, and I didn't want something to happen where I would hurt somebody and then be charged with murder later for defending myself. So I always stopped before I got my black belt.
And now we spoke for a little bit over 40 minutes, and I want to touch on one more thing. We didn't get to half the fetishes that I wanted to talk about that you've done. She's done pretty much everything, minus,
Yeah.
the disgusting stuff to some degree. But you have a clips for sale.
Some degree. Yeah, I've had slaves lick my toilet, but other than that, not too disgusting.
So I want to talk about clips for sale, and everybody's being a producer.
Mm-hmm.
How many clip stores do you operate? Where can people find you? And how does that all work for you and in the industry as a whole?
Oh man, it's constantly changing. So it's hard to keep up as a producer. I saw the industry mainstream change since the 90s. So it's definitely interesting. Clips for sale, you can find me at clipsforsale.com or c4s.com /88866, 88866. And that is my clip store. It's a great way to start, but I'm actually looking what me and my new partner that I have recently teamed up with, we are going to open up multiple stores under my studio. So girls that, bottom line is, y'all can't fucking edit. Okay, nobody can edit. Nobody knows fucking lighting. Nobody understands audio. These clips are crap half the time. Great, you have a really great cell phone. There's a niche for that. Let me have a store where you send me your clips. We'll edit them and give you a percentage of the paycheck. That's pretty much where the industry is going. I have mixed feelings about a lot of other clip stores, but I love Clips for Sale. They have great traffic. It's always good to go with mainstream store that can provide that kind of traffic, because I also have my own site, which is sexy with an I, Raven Rae, RAE.com. And, I am generating my own traffic. They don't generate traffic for me. So it's nice to work with people that are already generating that traffic, of people that are already there searching for those things. So it's really about knowing marketing. It's knowing how to market yourself. It's knowing how to not market yourself. It's knowing, connecting with the right people that aren't going to screw you over, making sure you understand contracts, making sure you do things legally with IDs and model releases. That's huge, because people don't do that. And it's a huge risk to the industry. If Clips for Sale were to get audited and somebody doesn't have a model release, everybody gets audited. Everybody has to prove their model releases for every single solitary fucking clip that's on there. So in that retrospect, with everybody becoming a producer that's really ignorant and dumb legally, it puts us all at risk. And it puts a bad taste in people's mouths when they have a bad experience with these inexperienced producers. So tainting the industry like that can be dangerous. But again, it's about knowing where to go. It's educating yourself. It's about not going into something blind.
And now we didn't cover nearly half of what I wanted to cover. You have quite an interesting career. I could probably talk to you for the next 3 hours easily. But
easy.
I want to give you an opportunity. I want to give you an opportunity to promote whatever you want. Your website, Twitter, Clips for Sales, any projects you're working on that you want people to know, social media, or anything along those lines that people should know about you to drive traffic, or whatever else you want to do.
Awesome. Right now, I did talk about a little bit about the reality show that we're doing, so we're going to keep watching for that on most of my social media is all the same. Sexy with an I, Raven Rae, RAE. I do have a modeling, more kind of vanilla account that is okay and a little bit more work safe appropriate, which is Madam without an E, Raven Rae, RAE. So those Twitters and Instagram are a little bit more appropriate, let's say. And anything with the sexy Raven Rae is a little bit more risque. So those are my social media links, handles, everything. The production company that we've recently started is Femdom Productions. It's on Twitter as FEMDOMME, Femdom, PROD, Prod Production. So look for that. I often tweet off of it, keep everybody posted on what's going on with the reality show. Let's see, YouTube's all the same. They actually just took down all of my shit. I had 20,000 views in 1 week, but somehow I think I put a wrong tag, so half my shit came. Night Flirt, I do there's Night Flirt. Everything's under Sexy Raven Rae. Webcam, if you want to do Skype, it's adult. There's so many websites. I have so many. Honestly, if you want to webcam or book a session or anything, you can always email me. Again, sexyravenrae@gmail.com. Pretty simple.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on. I'm very excited because of everything that you've done. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be happy to hear from you. And everybody, go check out all of our stuff.